My name's Amanda, and I am the spokesperson in New Zealand for an organisation called Positive Money. And what Positive Money is a group of people who have taken the movement that's in Britain and brought it here, because our money system works very much the same. So Positive Money is a big movement in Britain, and there's also an international movement for monetary reform, which we're all part of as well. So this isn't just a little thing that's starting in New Zealand. This is something that is, or the issue with the way the money system is designed is internationally growing. It's recognised and it's growing more in terms of people that can understand that there is a problem with the way it is designed. So really what Positive Money does is it proposes that we put our monetary system back to the way people actually think it works now, which is the interesting thing about it. So in that way it's not really very threatening, but it is quite shocking when you find out how it actually functions at the moment. So at the moment we, as a society, are facing a lot of challenges. There is all sorts of issues. We've got environmental issues, we've got economic issues, we've got social issues, ranging over a wide, diverse amount of topics. And they really, each one in themselves, can be linked back to money to some degree or another, some more than others. And what the politicians do is they try to do a really good job to pick out an issue and try and solve it. But what Positive Money says is if we could change the way money works, it would actually automatically solve a lot of the issues we're looking at. So we're out of balance. Let's try and get ourselves back in balance. Okay, so the whole premise that we are concerned about is the fact that banks create money. And it's an amazing privilege that they have the right to create money out of thin air. This isn't something we've made up. This can be backed up by, obviously this guy here, he's from the International Monetary Fund. There is a lot of places that this can be confirmed. Just about every central bank website in the world has got information about how money is created into our society and into our economy. And really it's a bookkeeping entry by the banks. So they create money out of thin air. And in case you don't believe me, this is the same guy here again from the International Monetary Fund. The key function of banks is money creation, not intermediation. And if you tell that to a mainstream economist, that's already provocative, even though it's 100% correct. Now, a lot of people aren't aware about the way money's created, including some economists, amazingly enough. So that's why I brought out the big names to actually tell you that this is actually the way it happens. Now, of course, when we say intermediation, that's the way people think banks work. They think that banks take Granny's savings, they pay Granny some interest, they put a markup on it, and they lend it out to you. The reality is that Granny's savings are a great reserve for the bank, but really what they do is when you go in for a loan, they type it into the computer, and there it is. So,
another way of putting it is that the loan creates the deposit. When they make a loan, it actually creates a new deposit in the banking system.
Yeah, but they need reserves as well, which is what Granny's savings do as well. Yeah. So, this is another quote, because I wanted to be sure you all got this. Essence, the contemporary monetary system is creation of money out of nothing. And this is he is the chief economics editor of the Financial Times, which is quite a prestigious publication. So again, these aren't just anybody saying these things. So, how did this all come about? Because really it sounds preposterous. And just a very, very quick bit of history. We brought the British system here when we colonised New Zealand. Bank was already a system that was established in Britain. Now this system of the banks making bookkeeping entries is in place throughout the whole world. That's why there's movements through the whole world to reform it. So there was a Bank Charter Act of 1844 that said banks cannot print notes, and they stopped printing notes. But of course they had these giant ledger books, and they started making entries in them that said, right, you owe us money, and it's more of a bookkeeping entry. So asset liability, it equaled out to zero, but they were still creating spendable money into the economy. So the Reserve Bank of New Zealand creates our notes and coins, and that's about 2% of the money we use, and the rest of it is all no longer big ledger books, but it's electronic money. So it's the typing it into a computer, asset liability with the bank. So that's where all our money comes from. 98% of our money comes from today. So what happens is you take out a mortgage and you owe the bank money and they give you money, and when you repay that money, the money disappears again. So they haven't created it for them to keep or for anybody to keep. It's only if it's got a debt behind it, which is why it's called debt-based money. So 98% of our money in our economy is backed by debt, which has certain repercussions.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
That 98% must be heading towards 100 quite quickly, because if there's a constraint around the amount of paper money there is in the economy, and there's no constraint around the banks, they can just create debt by crossing it across.
There are some constraints with the banks, which is, the Reserve Bank puts interest rate restrictions, and they've got to have some capital. You've got to have reserve requirements, and then they've got to have the capital for the lending as well.
So the reserve requirements is the constraint on how much credit they can.
It's one of the constraints, but they've actually deregulated it, so they technically don't have to have any, but they'd be stupid if they didn't have any reserves, because you'd go and want your money out of the bank and they wouldn't have any to give you, and then there'd be a run on the bank. So
effectively, if it's 98% is created,
all the money in our economy, you think of every single cent in everybody's bank account, 98% of it's created and backed by debt. It's just mental.
So if enough people realise that and they go to the bank and draw out the money, then
I know.
it's all over in a day.
I know. So I only operate an overdraft. So banks create money out of nothing. We have to pay it back with interest. Now there's the crunch, because you don't just take out a loan and that's great, and then you pay it back and it equals out to zero. You've also got to pay back interest. And so the question is, A, where does the interest come from? It comes from the real economy, which means other people have to be taking out loans in order for the money to be in the real economy. And the second part of that is that the bank keeps the profit. So the profit out of it, out of money they never had in the first place. And that's why I've joined Positive Money, because that ain't fair. So I've got the statistics for 2010, which are the bank profits of all the major banks in New Zealand, $3.3 billion profit from creating money out of thin air, and that is 95% of that money is shipped off to Australia, where their banks are owned, and beyond. So it comes out of our real economy, out of all our hard-earned money and environmental resources, and taken away. And that has some real problems. So this is a graph based in the UK, but it's very similar to New Zealand and most countries in the way it looks and the shape of it. The yellow line down the bottom is the notes and coins in circulation, and the green line is the money the banks are creating, which is more all the time, and the red line, of course, is how much we owe the banks. So we always owe the banks more money than is in the economy because of the interest. And if we paid the bank back all the money we owed them, we still wouldn't have enough money because we'd still owe them the interest and there'd be no money in the economy. So it's an extraordinary privilege these banks have got, and I don't think it serves us, and nor does positive money. So that's what I want to talk to you about.
Is this happening in all countries around the world?
There were 7 that didn't work this way. I can't remember all of them, but I know Iraq, Afghanistan were 2 of them.
The ones that don't have a Rothschild bank.
Channel Islands, which is the tiny.
Yeah, there's a few of them, and now there's 3 left. I think some of the ones that were independent had a war going on in their
3
country.
don't have a Rothschild bank. It's
But they're being invaded very quickly by America.
very common.
Yeah.
What was the little black worm on the previous slide? The little one on the right hand side.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh.
Sorry.
Could be very much shadow banking, etc. or something like that.
Yeah.
Something for derivatives.
Yeah, I'm not talking about derivatives and shadow
Credit
banking
union
today.
or something like that.
I've got 10 minutes, so I'm already
Yeah, no,
out
no,
of
I'm
time.
just- I'm just.
So the upshot of it all is, unless we have continuing economic growth and exponential growth at that, our economy is going to go into a recession, and if we still don't pick it up, it's going to go into a depression and then a collapse. So that's why the politicians are always saying economic growth, we've got to spend more, we've got to get money into the economy, we've got to unlock the credit markets so that we can have more debt, so we can spend more. And when you think about it this way, it's ridiculous. We're accumulating more debt to finance economic growth, and we need more future growth to repay that debt. Again, this guy's from the World Bank, so he's kind of important. So, right. So my point is that any scheme that must continually get bigger exponentially, and if it doesn't, it collapses. Well, the definition of that is a Ponzi scheme. So that's exactly what our monetary system is. The future must always be bigger than today or the past. And that's why they're always telling us we need to consume more and spend more, especially if we stop growing. We've all got to have more economic growth. And that's one of the key things that's affecting, you know, the environmental issues, because we're continually converting resources into GDP, maybe at a rate faster than a lot of environmentalists would like us to, which is one of the key issues. Anyone who believes that exponential growth can go on forever in a finite world is either a madman or an economist, which is one of my quotes that I particularly like. And I think the point I'm trying to make is this isn't sustainable, so there's a better way to do things. Now, this is New Zealand's economy from 1993. It's not up to date. The blue line at the bottom is our national debt, which is now at 60 billion. And the red line up the top is our total debt. So that's all households put together and including...
Councils, borough councils.
Pardon?
District councils.
Yeah, it's included in there. It's all of it. It's government debt and private debt. So you can see that we have had continual growth. One of the things we need to be really aware of and really careful of is that once GDP, the debt to GDP ratio is 100%, we're in a really sort of precarious position. And to quote, I don't know how many of you follow Nicole Foss. She's quite a good commentator. She's done some great work. She says any debt over 100% of GDP is a major warning flag. And that is what the New Zealand economy's got. This isn't been updated because I couldn't get the update figures, but I believe we've just got to about 100% debt.
What is that?
GDP is gross domestic.
Yeah, what is
It's
that?
about 200 billion at the moment. It is right now.
See the pink line is GDP?
That's GDP.
Yeah. So, and the top red line is total debt. So, okay, yeah. What I'm trying to say is GDP and debt it's around about 100%. So we need to be paying attention to that, because a lot of people look at the national debt, which is 28% of GDP. No, that's okay, but really it's total debt, because it affects us all. It's all money that's coming out of the economy and being shipped off overseas. Okay, now the other point I'd like to make is the debt. So 6 years ago was $10 billion, it's now $60 billion. So for various reasons, we've needed to spend $50 billion in the last 6 years. Now that's really a result of a global financial crisis, and we need to inject money into the economy, but it's also because we had the Christchurch earthquakes, and the rest of it, Bill and Wish just said that they spent it into the economy. So that's what they did with it. Now, $50 billion. Have we had Zimbabwe-style inflation? No, we haven't. Now, if we didn't have that debt, our economy would be fantastic. We've got 3% growth, we've got controllable inflation, everybody's happy, but the problem is the debt that's caused it. We've borrowed the money to stick into the economy. And if we hadn't borrowed it, we'd created it. Do you see what I mean? We wouldn't have the debt, but we would have still the growth that we've seen. So that's just the blue line you just saw, that's the government debt there, just on a different scale. So, you know, for one reason or another, we've got ourselves in the position we have. There's $10 million a day in interest we're paying, that if we didn't have a debt-backed money system, would be going back into the New Zealand economy. Right, so the politician on the left here is basically done what the National Party has done. They've said, we need more money in the economy, even if it puts us more in debt. And the politician on the other side saying, no, we need less debt, even if it means less money. So we've got to choose one or the other. And various sort of political movements have got their own theory about which one we'll use. But what positive money is saying is actually, let's have less debt and let's have more money. Which to me seems logical. Alright, so Mervyn King, former Governor of Bank of England. Of all the ways of organising banking, the worst is the one we have today. Okay, so the question I'm asking and what positive money is saying is the money system serving us, or are we in servitude to it? And why everybody sort of accepts the way things are at the moment. We create money to serve us, and we don't have to continue with a debt-based money system, and it can be redesigned. And that's what positive money is saying, that we need to create a system that works for us and for society, not against it. So what they're proposing is that we remove the power of the banks to create the money. They're not going to like it, but that's what we're proposing. And we give that power back to the government to create our nation's money supply without going back to our huge debts. The politicians in themselves wouldn't be responsible for deciding exactly how much money, because like anybody in charge of, you know, they have all these election promises, they could actually create too much and cause a lot of inflation. So it would be given to an independent monetary policy committee, and in that way the money creation is democratic, accountable, and it's
Not too inflation.
well, yeah, even with inflationary limits. So the committee would decide how much money is created, but the government would then decide how the money is spent. The government of the day that's elected. And when they spend the money into the economy, it's not going to be on housing bubbles or into the financial markets. It's going to go into the real economy. So it's going to start with the people and get to the people first before it gets to the housing markets and the financial sector. So it was spent into schools, health, roads, hospitals. It could also, they could decide to, you know, if they wanted to use it as a deduction against taxes, if they want to cut taxes, and some of it can be used to pay off debt as well. I mean, whatever they want, you know, it's
So
just...
plenty of money for earthquakes and stuff like that.
Yeah, within inflationary limits. I mean, the whole idea of this is, you know, we're controlling inflation, but we don't owe billions of dollars off overseas to the big banks. So right now it's impossible to solve the problems we've got, because money, which affects almost every part of our life, is proposes a money system that works for society and not against it. And this is one of my favourite.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, we're doing everything we can for more GDP because we desperately need growth, and we're reaching our limits when you see that, you know, people are struggling, and you've got 2 adults in every household having to go to work, and our environment's being stripped. So we need a way that we don't have to do these things in order to generate revenue. So if you agree with what we're saying, and if you like it, please find out more. Please spread the word. Please join Positive Money. Now, there's some pamphlets in the back. I've given you a lot of information today, so if you'd like to find out more, please take one of these. And the website for Positive Money is on here. And I think that this is one of the fundamental things we can do to try and improve the situation we've got ourselves into as a society, because money affects all of those aspects. Yeah.
What do you suggest we do about the billions of money that we owe, or have that is called debt that we owe overseas, or we owe?
We have to pay it off, and we have to do it without devaluing the New Zealand currency, because that will cause a war. So we need to do it slowly and gradually, which is possible. Yeah, it is. And if we just start creating our own money and gradually paying it off with inflationary limits, that can be done.
Are things like Bitcoin and some of the other systems that have collapsed, were they attempts to try and do something like this? Or,
Well, I know they're not backed by debt, but I don't know, Rick. I don't know. Yeah, sorry. So anyway, now I'm standing as an independent in this coming election because I'm so passionate about how this affects all of us. The reason I'm doing it is to tell everybody about it, because we all need to know. And so, if you can give me any support, if you want to do that, that's great as well. And the last thing you can do is to go and tell your favoured political party or your MP that this system would fix a myriad of problems, or at least contribute to helping.
are you saying for Otaki?
Yeah, autarky.
And do we give you a vote as person that you vote for? But then
I'm not a party. Yeah, not a party. Not a party.
No, you're not president yet. So you give your party vote what you think is the best.
I think it's important. See, I'm not going to get into Parliament. I think it's important to give your candidate vote if you feel really strongly left or right about those candidates. But if you feel really strongly that this is a key issue, then I think it's a statement to the government or any other MPs. Look how many votes that's getting.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But then if you think, oh, that Labour guy, you know, I really want him in and it's going to be a tight one, I better, you know, I mean, you just vote how you vote. I'm not really hoping to get a seat. I don't know.
That's a good strategic plan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm certainly not a party. So this is just a way to keep publicity, because it's so important that people realise how the system actually does work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been researching this too independently, and I agree with what she said, and there's a lot more, but I've had this explained to me properly for the first time this time around, so thank you.
Oh, okay.